Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and I want to show you how you can easily change or upgrade the steering wheel in your BMW F Series. Alright guys, let's talk about this project a little bit before we do it and the reasons why you would want to do this. Now, maybe you need to change your steering wheel because it's become worn or, been weather damaged or something similar. But this is also a fantastic time to upgrade your steering wheel. And keep in mind, this is the one piece of equipment in your car that you interact with every single time you drive. So if you don't like your steering wheel or you want something better, this is a fantastic way to upgrade. Mashimarho has a service where you can actually customize and custom build your steering wheel. Now there's lots of options where you can go out and buy off the shelf different choices. But if you actually want to customize exactly what you want leather, you want perforated leather, you want carbon fiber, you want all kinds of different variations of shape, you want Alcantara, you want carbon fiber top and bottom, you want a flat steering wheel, you want a yoke steering wheel, you want to go crazy. Mashimarho is a fantastic place to get exactly what you're looking for. Now, in my case, I've gone fairly conservative. This is an Alcantara steering wheel with a blue stripe on top. It is heated as well. So in my case, I didn't want to lose my heated functionality in my existing OEM steering wheel, so I limited my choices a little bit to stay and still keep that heated functionality. Now, that is one of those huge advantages of Mashimarho because you can actually get custom steering wheels that will maintain the heated steering wheel function, where a lot of them, you don't have that choice at all. The moment you start customizing or put in something different, you're gonna lose that functionality. I didn't want to. So I really love the Alcantara steering wheels. This looks a lot like the M Performance steering wheels that you can get from BMW, but even though it's custom and it's designed exactly for me on how I wanted it, with the Alcantara, with the blue stripe on top, the M stitching, the whole 9 yards, it's a lot less. And it's exactly my steering wheel, which makes me really, really happy. So I want to walk you through this install. This isn't all that hard. It's just going to take a little bit of time and a few simple tools. But the first place we want to start is actually in the trunk, because we're going to be pulling the ground post on our battery, because we're going to be taking our airbag out as we transfer all of the bits and pieces of your existing steering wheel into the new one. So let's go check out the trunk. All right, so this is on my MTC, so my battery is actually here in the middle, and I've pulled the floorboard out so you can see the battery. Now, on a lot of the 3 Series and 4 Series, even 5 Series, your battery will actually be here on the right, and you'll pull a door and pull it down, and you'll see the battery in this low position on this side, but the process is essentially the same. The other thing you always want to do when your trunk is open and your battery is unplugged is put a rag through the hook for your trunk itself, okay? This way, there's no way you can close your trunk when your battery is unplugged, because if you do, this can be a real problem on how to get back in. Okay, so you'll have a 10 millimeter nut here on your battery. So go ahead and just loosen this nut to get the negative post loose, and then go ahead and just walk it up and off the car, just like that. Okay, so now you don't have to worry about the airbag or any airbag warnings when we pull that off. That's really important. All right, so now that we've got the airbag unplugged, you've got 2 holes here on either side of the actual back of the steering wheel itself. Now, what I really like to use is, I've got a T30 driver, and you could also use a T20 as well, but I really like it because it's got a flat end on it. And you want to very carefully feel into these holes. Now, when you do this, don't scratch up your steering column. That would really suck, okay? But basically, you have 2 retaining springs that you're going to be pressing this tool in and pressing against. So when you push in on this side, you'll feel it and you'll press on that spring, and then this side of the bag will come loose. Go ahead and hang on to it, put the tool in on the other side and start to pry it loose. So when you get this, as you find the hole here, and you just very gently come up, because I don't want to score up the plastic. So I push the tool in here, I can feel the spring give a little bit. And that way you just you press on it, and there, the bag's about halfway out. So I'm just going to keep my fingers stuck into it. I'm going to very carefully check on the other side so I don't scratch up the plastic. So there's the hole. Just kind of press in until you hit that spring. And there you go. So now the airbag is out. Now, there's a plug here back in the back. It's really hard to see right now, and I'll show it as soon as I get this bag out. But it's one of those typical little squeeze on the little tab. You just press on the little tab. Now, if you have any problems with this plug, and mine came out really easily, so you just take this and you just depress the little tab in the center, and it comes right out. Worst case scenario, if you can see there, in there, there's the little locking tab. You could also use a pick tool to set it in there and pick and then pull this out. So now at this point, this is off and we can look to take the steering wheel off itself. But there's a couple of things we want to do first, and I'm going to rearrange my camera. All right, so here's what it looks like with your airbag off, and as you can see, you have a couple of additional plugs still plugged in back through the body of the steering wheel itself. So when we take this off, we're going to take our steering wheel off and transfer the trim and the buttons and all of these pieces, but we're going to do it, and it's easier once the steering wheel is off, which is this big bolt right here. Okay, so, but you're going to want to unplug here and here next. You can use a pick tool again to kind of reach in and to press the little tabs on both of these, and then both of these will come out. Then we're going to want to use a breaker bar and a socket on this big bolt right here, which we'll do here in just a second. But go ahead and unplug these next, and then we're going to take this bolt out. Okay, quick lessons learned here really quick with both of these plugs now undone. The one here that's about the 12 o'clock position next to where the airbag would be, the little locking tab is kind of on top. So as you use a pick tool, you come at it from the top and the plug will come out. The plug that's here at about the 5 o'clock position, you would think that the locking tab would be on the inside, kind of the top of the plug towards the 16 millimeter nut right here. It's not, it's actually on the bottom. It's on this outside edge. So if you very gently use a pick tool, and then this plug will come out. If not, it'll fight you quite a bit, okay? Now, all that's done, you've got a 16 millimeter nut or bolt, right? Excuse me, right here in the center. This is where you're gonna wanna brace your steering wheel and use a breaker bar to get this done. And this is going to take a little bit of work. I haven't broken this open yet, but there it is. Okay, so just like that. And it wasn't too bad. You could probably do it with a long-handled wrench, but it's good to have a breaker bar just in case. Now, when you do all of this, I'm really careful at this stage. Your steering wheel actually has teeth in it. The shaft that it goes on actually has teeth in it, so it only goes a certain way. But you have all of the collars that are involved in all of this, your steering wheel alignment, everything else. So whenever I undo my steering wheel, I'm very careful from this point forward that I don't mess anything up or crank on it at all, anything like that. So now, the one other thing to keep in mind is that if you have an encapsulated bolt, which this does not appear to be, BMW actually recommends replacing them. So in this case, that's not the case, okay? So at that point, your steering wheel is loose, and you can just pull it straight off, okay? Now, make sure to not turn any of the rest of this. Don't turn the collars. Don't turn anything else that's here. Be very, very careful as we take the steering wheel. Let's take it off to someplace safe. We're going to take the trim off. We're going to take our buttons off and transfer them onto the new steering wheel. All right, so you just want to work in a safe spot so you can transfer all of these things, and you're going to just basically take it a piece at a time and transfer all of the components from your current steering wheel to the new, which you can see sitting back behind. And you can see the bare frame of what it's going to look like. You can see everything that's going to move. And again, in my case, I have heated, so you've got the plug here. If you have a steering wheel that has any of the vibration functions in it, you'll have a motor right here as well. But again, you just transfer one for one. Where you want to start really is go ahead and start in your steering wheel trim. You've got 3 T20s. You'll see them, there's silver, there's one on the inside here, one on the inside there, and one on the back right there. So if you also want to change your steering wheel trim, this is a great time to do it. Make sure to check out my steering wheel trim video, because at least in the M2Cs, all of the interior carbon fiber is actually raw carbon fiber. It's not matte, it's not gloss, it doesn't have any of those surfaces on it. It's actually raw carbon fiber, and that's really, really hard to find. So I actually was able to find raw carbon fiber trim to replace the kind of matte or black plastic that you have, and actually have raw carbon instead. So I really like it. And that's why mine may look a little bit different than what you're used to. Okay, but again, just walk through it. Keep taking these components apart. We'll be taking the buttons off next as we go through it all. But the nice thing about this is that you really can just kind of take it a piece at a time, and then all of these pieces we'll just transfer one at a time into the new steering wheel. Now, one thing I really want to call out as we do this, obviously we're going to be changing all of the plastics and everything too. Your trim here has a collar across the top, so it's really easy as you pull this away to break this. If you just yard on it, it's not just this Y shape, it goes all the way across the top as well. So when you do pull this off, be very gentle as you get it to come off. That way you don't break it, because that would be a huge drag. Okay, so let's keep taking those components apart. Just like that. So now this is off, and you can see everything else that's going to go as we move along through, right? So I've got that motor as well. So that's going to be transferred. as we go through. Okay, but we're just going to keep transferring all of these components all the way across. I'm also going to take this big collar off next. Okay, a couple of things again as we continue disassembly. You can see the buttons are off and they're loose. Now, you actually see where the wiring harness for the button on this side comes down to a screw that attaches into the frame itself of the steering wheel. So go ahead and take that screw out. You can also see where this back plastic is starting to get loose, but it's going to be held into place. You can see the wiring harness that comes through in hooks right here. So you're going to want to take the wiring harness for this button series and walk it out of the harness. Now, again, don't forget where all these things go, and you can always come back and rewatch this video of where all this wiring harness goes, because when you put it back on the new one, you want to tuck it into all these same places. But again, you're just going to work it over and around to get it so this will come free, and this back plastic shield will come off, because you can see it's going to hang up on itself, especially when it's still screwed in right there. All right, so a couple of quick just pointers I want to point out as we go through this. So as this back shield comes off, you actually have a little locking clip right here that you can't see until it starts to come off. You've got, when you look at the wiring harness, you can see this little plug block right here. This little plug block is what's sitting back clipped into here. So you just take a pick tool and lift that little locking flap, and then it'll come off. Then the back shield is off, okay? So that's all set. As you can tell, the wiring harness itself and all that collar is off, which is really easy. If you have the heated steering wheel, you unplug it so you can see the run here that's coming up that you unplugged from. And then you have this motor, which will unplug so the whole wiring harness will come out. And this motor is what gives you like lane departure because it vibrates and all of that, right? And if you notice, you look, there's no screws holding it into place, but what you have is these two levers that are coming down, these little plastic arms that are coming down and hooking in. So it's very clear that this goes in and locks down. And you can see it has these metal collars that come down over these flanges. So very carefully, because you don't want to bend this clip at all, very carefully clear this up and over these little locking ridges, and then take the motor, lift it up and away, and it'll come off, and then you transfer it to the new steering wheel. All right, so one quick pointer in getting this clip off, because like I said, you really don't want to tear up the clip or anything else, and it is really tight. But what I found, if I held it in this orientation and I pressed down on it to actually give itself a little bit of pressure to get up and off this ridge, I pressed down and then I used a small screwdriver and very, very gently pried that lip up and away. And as you can see now, it's loose. So I can work the other side off as well. Because what I didn't want to do is just start banging it up. I didn't want to bend up this clip. You wouldn't want to have to replace it. I wouldn't imagine that's easy. But there's no reason why you can't get this off gently if you just press on it to give it a little bit of give there to get it up and over the ridge. Okay, so go ahead and start transferring components, and I'll walk you through that process as we transfer into the new steering wheel. All right, we're about ready to put the back plastic on, so just a couple of quick pointers before we do so. Don't forget this little module. You can see the teeth on it actually fit into little teeth there on the back collars. It fits in, so as you're sliding that up, fit this into those teeth. Don't forget this blue wired plug goes into that little holder clip, and get that done as well. Also, if you'll notice when you look at the ground wire, there's actually little molded bumps about the 12 o'clock position of where that screw goes in to hold the wire in place, so make sure that it's not sitting at a different angle, that it's sitting up and down as well. But as you can tell, this isn't hard. The one thing I always make sure to do as well, if you think about it, your airbag attaches to this collar. So these screws, which are T20s, but they're big, thick T20 screws, go in really, really firmly. They were probably pretty tight when you took them out. So you put them back in very firmly to make sure that this frame is held into place very well. Okay, so go ahead and take the back plastic, fit it back up into place, get this module into the tracks, get that plug into the tracks. You can get the wiring back into the clips and get it all back together. But the next stage really is going to be putting your trim back on. So go ahead and get the back plastic on, get your buttons in place, and then we'll look at putting the trim back on. All right, psyched. It's really coming together really well. A couple of just tips and tricks as you go. One of the best ways to keep this plastic into place are the buttons themselves. So I fit the plastic in with that blue plug inside the clip. I then fit the buttons here really nice and cleanly on one side and held it, and then put that T20 in through the back side, and then that plastic frame will really stay in place. And then I did that on both sides. We've got this module here that's down on the tracks that fits into these little teeth right here. I've got my heated steering plugged back in. I've got my lane departure vibration plugged back in, along with this little cover. So there's this little plasticky, rubbery cover that fits over the top and really kind of only goes into one spot. But make sure to get that back in as well. So as you can tell, it's pretty much all back together with the exception of the central trim. I just wanted to make sure that you saw this before I put the trim back on. You just fit it back into place, snap it in, put those 3, 1, 2, and then through the underside, 3 of those T20s back in. And then we're back in the place where we can put this back into the car. Okay, so we're back in the car. We're going to reinstall the steering wheel, and I am very, very careful, like I mentioned earlier, about not turning any of the collar or any of the other pieces here. Probably more careful than I need to be, but I don't want to mess anything up. Okay. Now, also, there are notches in the steering column itself and notches in the steering wheel, so it should go on straight. But as you line this up, you want to line those notches up and get it lined right up. Now, when you do this, if it is off, because it is possible to have it off a little bit. I've installed the steering wheel once and it was like one tiny tooth off. So it is possible to take this back off, straighten it back out, and put it back on again. I've certainly had that happen. But you want to be very careful when you do this. I know that my steering wheel was absolutely straight when I took it off. It looks absolutely straight now. When I look at the very faint mark that's on the frame of the steering wheel itself, and there's a notch, so when the steering column comes up, there's a little notch in it. They appear to be lined up, and then everything else lines up as well, because you've got your plugs that go through the frame of the steering wheel. So if those don't line up, well, then you're really way, way, way off, right? But it should be straight. If it isn't, it's an easy fix, but just make sure, triple check now to make sure it's right, so you don't have to take all this back off and correct it one time like I had to do once, which is really a bit of a hassle, okay? So then at that point, you can take your 16mm bolt, thread it back into place. When we're done, this is going to be 62 Newton meters, so you're going to want to use that same 16mm and use a torque wrench set and capable of 62 Newton meters to torque this back down properly. So I'm just going to do it finger tight for now. Okay, and then you can start to plug everything back in. You can take your 2 primary plugs that you have set. So go ahead and plug that in. Go ahead and plug your lower in as well. And then I'm going to torque that bolt down next. So crank it down. You're going to have to hold the steering wheel as you do it, but get it down to 62 Newton meters, and then we can reinstall the airbag, and you're almost done. All you need to do is put your airbag back on, and that's really easy. Okay, so all you need to do is just take and feed the plug in until it snaps. Make sure that the plug doesn't come back out, and then just set your airbag straight in and rock it into place. And you'll hear it click. Hopefully you heard that on the video. And it also feels right now, right? So you can feel it feels like the horn is going to work, and it's all set into the right place, just like that, okay? Other than that, you're pretty much done. All you need to do now is just go ahead and go back to your trunk, plug your ground wire on your battery back in, secure it down with that 10mm, tighten it down, put your floorboards of your trunk back in, and you're done. Congrats. All right, y'all, so after you've tested, go ahead and clean up and put your tools away. This really is a simple project, and everything you need, again, reminders be listed down below. And this is a perfect time to do any other steering wheel upgrades that you want to do. You can get those colored buttons, you can do different trim, all of those things. This is the best time to combine that work. And make sure to check out Mashimarho, because they have all of those things as well if you want to change your trim or your buttons and other options. So this is such a cool customization you can do to your car, and you can really go crazy. Make sure to check out their online configurator that you can go through, and you can really customize the steering wheel that you're looking for, whether you want electronics, you want carbon fiber, you want perforated leather, you want some combination of different shapes, you name it, pretty much you got it. I went very conservative in this case, but I really like it. So like I said earlier, it's kind of like an M Performance wheel, but better, because I could customize it, and also it's still heated, and it's less expensive and better than buying the OEM, so I don't know why you wouldn't. So please make sure to check out Mashimarho. I'm really grateful for them for this new steering wheel in my car, because man, every single day I'm going to drive my car, I'm going to be using that new wheel, and I'm really excited by that. Please click subscribe and the little alarm bell. It makes a huge difference to my channel, and I have a ton of new content coming that I cannot wait to bring you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.